Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily, and this is the first video I posted for a while, but I was recently watching YouTube, and I like to watch Christian apologetics YouTube a lot. A lot of it comes in my feed quite often. Even though I am an atheist, I still watch a lot of Christian apologetics videos on the off chance that maybe they'll say something that makes sense. Recently I came across this channel, Redeemed Zoomer. So Redeemed Zoomer is a Gen Z Presbyterian Christian, and I've watched a few of his videos. So this is not intended to be a hate video on Redeemed Zoomer, although I do believe he's homophobic. And I don't agree with him on most things, I think, which is a little bit, I think, obvious. But, yeah, so I'm going to do a reaction to this video called Three Difficult Questions for Atheists. So these are some questions that, according to him, he has talked to atheists before that have a hard time answering these questions. So I'm going to be doing a quick reaction video to it.
Back to Kingdom Craft, where I build this big church in Minecraft while I talk about Christianity. And today I'm going to be talking about 3 questions that are perfectly easy for Christians to answer, but are almost impossible for atheists to answer. Now,
okay, so right off the bat, I just want to say that this is something I notice a lot in the Christian apologetic space. We'll see what Redeemed Zoomer says, what Redeemed Zoomer has as examples for this, but a lot of times I've talked to Christians and I've watched a lot of Christian apologetics, and I used to be Christian myself. I was raised in the Catholic Church. I have an entire video about why I'm no longer Christian, but a lot of Christians, they will take a question like, how do we know what is right and wrong? And if an atheist cannot give a good answer, they will immediately say, oh, so you can't prove the existence of objective morality, therefore Jesus died on the cross for your sins, and God sacrificed himself to save all of us from himself, and go into the whole entire specifics about Christianity, which is just, I don't think that it...
Definitions real quick. I'm defining an atheist as someone who does not believe in God or any sort of supernatural, like human soul or something. Now, I know atheists will say, oh, we're not claiming God doesn't exist, we're just saying we have a lack of belief. Sure, whatever. I'm not going to argue with them right now. But I'm just defining an atheist as sort of a naturalist, someone who does not believe positively in the supernatural. The first question that they really can't answer is, why is human life worth more than an animal life? And also, what I'm doing in Minecraft is I'm going to make an enclosure to breed some animals, because I want to be humane here. This is a church after all. So I will be harvesting meat, but I want them to have a lot of roaming space. I'm not going to, like, factory.
Okay, here we go with the carnist stuff. So his first question is, atheists can't answer why human life is more valuable than animal life. So this opens up a whole can of worms. If you guys watched any other videos on my channel, you probably know that I'm vegan, so I definitely disagree with him here when he insinuates that farming animals for meat is ethical, because I, as an atheist, don't believe that. But then I also do concede that I would give priority to members of my own species above members of another species. So, for example, if I was in a room with non-human animal and a human, and I had to kill one of them, I would probably kill the non-human animal. And I don't think that it necessarily points to the existence of God that I would want to prefer members of my own species. The other thing is, and this is an argument that Cosmic Skeptic used to use back when he was vegan, he used to make the argument that animal rights does not mean putting animals on the same exact level as humans, because we can recognize that humans have a greater depth of emotional experience, a greater awareness of the world around us due to more complex neurological mechanisms in our brains as compared to the brains of non-human animals. But that doesn't mean that non-human animals have no value at all. It doesn't mean that non-human animals should have no rights at all, because non-human animals are still conscious and can still suffer. So no, I don't believe that it's ethical for him to be farming animals. I know it's just Minecraft, but I know the corollary is meat eating in real life, and that he defends that, and he's going to make the point that, you know, atheists who eat meat, they are fine with killing animals, but they're not fine with killing humans, and they can't justify that. And you know what? You're right, Redeemed Zoomer. You are absolutely right about that, and that's why everyone should be vegan. But I don't think that's a point you're going to make.
Of course, in real life, I have to be better about not eating factory farmed meat. Anyway, but yeah, so Christians do care about animals and animal life, because, I mean, they should at least, because I think God cares about them. The Bible seems to say that. But we know that human life is superior to animal life. Human life was set apart in the Garden of Eden, regardless of...
Wait a second. Okay, so now he's going right to the Garden of Eden, the Adam and Eve story. So a lot of Christians believe that humans are set apart. They're made in God's image. This is what I believed when I was Christian. I was Catholic specifically. But I think this causes a lot of big ethical issues, such as this is one reason why I'm so like against Christianity. A lot of people ask me, why are you so anti-Christian? Why do you have such derision for Christian doctrine? And there's a lot of reasons, and one of the reasons is this idea of human exceptionalism. I think this gives humans such a free pass where we should not get a free pass. I don't believe that humans are special. I don't believe that humans are special. I think it's okay for humans to give priority to our own species, but not to the point where we're eroding the right to live of other conscious beings, of other sentient animals who experience emotions, who experience pain, who experience suffering. The only relevant moral quality is the ability to suffer. Animals can suffer, okay? And that's why it is harmful. That's why I believe in my moral framework, which is my moral framework is centered around reducing suffering. And that's why I believe it is wrong to eat animals. And so I really think that I think he's mischaracterizing a lot of atheists here, and he's kind of making a tangential point that doesn't really, point to the existence of God. I don't think that people having a hypocritical favoritism for their own species really points to the existence of a God in any sense.
Literally, you take that story, the Bible is very clear that human life is set apart and superior in some sense to animal life. I believe animals have some kind of soul, but not a rational soul the way humans do. I think that was the view of like Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas. I think that makes the most sense. But
here's the thing, though. So I know that Redeemed Zoomer has said in previous videos that he believes in evolution. So if he believes in evolution, then he must accept the fact that humans share common ancestors with every other animal on the earth. So if you accept evolution, then the entire idea of humans being created with a different soul, it doesn't really make logical sense, because the idea that humans are created separately, that humans have a different essence, as he puts it, that doesn't really square with evolution at all. So it's my opinion that religion and science cannot coexist in this way, and that obviously science is what it's more supported by evidence, and that's what I value in epistemology, because it doesn't really make sense to say that humans are endowed with this other type of soul, and that animals don't have a rational soul.
Because we believe in the human soul, we believe that humans are inherently superior to animals. But atheists who, generally speaking, do not believe in the human soul don't really have much of a logical case for saying that human life is worth more than animal life. Most atheists...
That is not true. I think there are plenty of other reasons that somebody might choose to kill a pig over a human. Humans, because we have a lot more complex brain activity, you can make the argument that a human has almost a higher level of consciousness. And again, that doesn't negate veganism, because, for example, a pig and a dog have similar levels of intelligence, similar levels of awareness and self-awareness, and you wouldn't kill a dog, so you shouldn't kill a pig, and that's speciesism in action. Back to one of Cosmic Skeptic's main points is that speciesism does not mean taking into account real differences between species. Speciesism means treating someone different on the singular basis of their species.
Would still say that it's worse to kill a human than to kill a fly. But why? Now, the first...
So I would say that it's worse to kill a human than to kill a fly, although I personally, I don't kill flies. I try to, I usually, when there's a bug in my house or something, I just, try to take it on a cup and move it outside. I try not to kill bugs in general. But the reason why even an atheist would say that it's less bad to kill a bug than to kill a human. Well, first of all, we are biased towards our own species. And second of all, it is pretty clear that bugs have a less complex experience of the world than humans do. So if you're going to go based off value in terms of ability to experience, then the human would have more value. And you don't have to bring supernatural things into it. And
so they'll give the most obvious one is, because humans are more intelligent. But First of all, if intelligence is what determines the value of a life, then is a smart person's life worth more than a dumb person? Like, I don't know, would Albert Einstein's life be worth more than, like, mine? I mean, actually, yeah, probably, because
He's really close to making a vegan argument here. He's really close to making a vegan argument.
for science. But, I don't know. The kid in my class who always got A pluses on tests, is his life worth more than mine? Because I did not always get A pluses on tests in school. I was more of a A minus, B plus sort of student. Another question is, like, an adult pig has a higher intelligence, like a higher IQ than a newborn baby. But obviously, killing a pig is legal and killing a newborn baby is not. And if they're going to say
a lot of things are legal that are not moral
because of what the baby's going to turn into, then they should be pro-life, which they're usually not. So their arguments really fail. They know instinctively, and they're correct about this, that human life is worth more than an animal life. That's based on natural revelation that we can just figure that.
So, as a side note, I don't really understand what he means by natural revelation. What does that exactly mean? Like, the idea that humans have this sense that we are more valuable than animals, I don't really think that can be logically attributed to the existence of a god. I think that's pretty intuitive, that evolutionarily we're going to have a greater fondness for our own species who share a greater amount of the same genes as us than for a different species. And that's the same reason why historically people get into conflicts with outgroups, because psychologically and evolutionarily we are predisposed to care more about people who are more closely related to us. And I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory why people would have a greater attachment to humans than to other animals. The main argument he seems to be making here is that humans have this innate sense that we are more valuable than animals, than non-human animals, and therefore this means that we have some sort of sense that God created us specially, that God created us more specially than other animals. I don't think that's a logical conclusion from this. I think the more logical conclusion is that this is probably an adaptation. This is probably the consequence of how evolution works. And also, this doesn't count veganism either, although this video is not about veganism. It doesn't discount veganism either, because just because I don't place the same importance as a pig as a human doesn't mean that I think we should continue murdering pigs for their flesh, all right?
But they can't explain why. They really can't. And the best they can do is say that we just have loyalty to our own species, but that's not actually saying why it's wrong to kill a human. That's just saying why humans don't want to kill other humans. And I don't even know if we can say there is an inherent interspecies.
All right, this is just getting into the debate of morality and whether morality is subjective or objective, and where it comes from. And these are questions that are really difficult to answer, and I'm no philosopher or expert on these questions. But again, I don't think that this is the gotcha he thinks it is.
Because you could say with evolution we have evolved to be loyal to, like, our own clan or tribe, but not to humanity as a whole. That's why humans have killed each other for all of history. It's like, yeah, they're loyal to their own clan.
Humans have also killed lots of non-human animals. This is not a very good argument. He's saying that because humans kill other humans too, therefore we aren't loyal to our own species. But on the contrary, I think it's pretty clear that humans are more loyal to our own species than we are to other animals. It's not as if we have these conflicts between rivaling groups of humans that are considered outgroups of each other. And, you know, another point here is that a lot of historical oppression was perpetuated because the people in power were able to dehumanize the victims of the oppressive regimes. And I think that is itself a testament to the fact that humans are loyal to members of their own species, because a lot of atrocities were committed only after perpetuating the idea that the victims were less than human or subhuman or not human in some other way. So I really don't think that this is a good argument against humans having a preference for their own species, naturally.
Not to the one that they're competing with, definitely not. That's why humans have treated each other worse than, like, any animal species has treated each other. So that argument really fails. So they really can't explain why humans have any inherent worth at all. And that's why the most genocidal regimes in history were atheistic. Because if there's
no, we're going down the Stalin was an atheist route. No, this is a classic. People who tout out this argument, they always conveniently forget to mention all of the people who have murdered others, tortured others, destroyed other cultures in the name of religion. They only want to talk about the atrocities committed by atheists. They don't want to talk about the atrocities committed by religious people. And one of one of the best, I think, points made by Christopher Hitchens in his book God Is Not Great. I believe that's where he said this, but he made the point that a lot of people bring up this idea that atheists have no regard for human life, that atheists perpetuate atrocities against each other. But Hitchens says that religion is in fact more dangerous because religion makes you feel like you're divinely justified in whatever you do. That whatever crimes you commit, you're doing it for some higher power, so it's more justified. And it's the same like that Voltaire quote: "He who can make you believe in absurdities can make you commit atrocities." I really think that this is an extremely myopic argument and misses a lot of hypocrisy because it is definitely not atheists who who are the only ones who have perpetuated horrible things throughout history.
Like human value, no inherent human essence, so to speak, then human value is determined by how useful it is. And that's why I say if you're Stalin and if you're a communist, then you think human life is only valuable if it contributes to the utopia you're trying to build, for example. Boldly assert that human life has inherent worth. It's very dangerous. And like,
I agree that it's dangerous to say that human life doesn't have worth, but with the caveat that human life has worth not just because it's human. Human life has worth because of things that come with being human, such as sentience, such as the ability to suffer, such as the ability to experience life. That is what gives human life value, not just by virtue of being human. And that's why worth that comes from being human comes from other aspects, other characteristics of being human that are inherent in being human, but not inherent to being human, if that makes any sense.
Enlightenment philosophers still believed in like human rights, but in the Enlightenment, people started to question the existence of God, and that laid the bedrock for denying human rights. Now,
it's like, so people didn't deny human rights before the Enlightenment. People didn't deny human rights before secularism. I mean, I can think of so many religious regimes, so many religious institutions that denied human rights before the Enlightenment. I mean, I really think this is a really weird argument to make, considering the Enlightenment is what led to a lot of Western philosophy, Western ideas of government, Western ideas of human rights. Yeah, this is just a weird argument. I don't know.
I don't know if I believe in human rights in like a John Locke sense, because I don't think that there's something inherent. I think rights are given to us by God, but through natural law. I generally agree with the concept of human rights. Just the Enlightenment set the foundation for a lot of really bad stuff, but it wasn't all bad. The Enlightenment, like almost anything, is a mixed bag. But yeah, under atheism, there really is no regard for human rights. It's why they support abortion, and they'll say it's also why they support euthanasia. Like when you bring up Stalin, they're like, oh, obviously we're not like Stalin. Yeah, but you still have basically just as much of a disregard for human.
Why is he comparing euthanasia to Stalin? Okay, so like I don't really like to talk about politics on this channel, but I believe that euthanasia, voluntary euthanasia for terminally ill, especially for terminally ill patients, there's nothing wrong with it. I think that it's your right to choose how you go out. You know, I think that, Redeem Zoomer, I would really like to hear your thoughts on this. If you had a terminal illness and every day was pain and you knew that you were going to die very soon and you knew that there was no option for you to be saved or for you to recover or for you to live a life that wasn't pure suffering, and how would it be wrong for you to then terminate your own life as your own choice? I don't understand how that would be wrong, or even comparable to Stalin, who killed a lot of people non-consensually. I mean, that's just a ridiculous comparison.
Because of how much they support abortion, and they used to try and say that like they support the safe, legal, and rare abortion, but we know that's not true. They support as much as possible. And in Canada now, doctors are recommending that patients euthanize themselves for cases that are treatable. I'm against all euthanasia, but some cases are more outrageous than others. Same way I'm against all abortion, but abortion at like 8 months is more outrageous than abortion at like more outrageous than like I don't know, a Plan B pill. Even though it's all murder, you know, and euthanasia is also murder. It's also homicide. So I'm against all of that. But under atheism, you cannot have value for human life, and this is not just a theoretical thing. We see the effects of this play out. All right. So the next.
Where do you see the effects of this play out? Like, I would really like some examples about this. I know he brought up Stalin already, but I fail to see how atheism was the motivating factor for Stalin's crimes against humanity. A lot of people make that argument. They say that Stalin had no concept of human. He's making the case that Stalin had no concept of human rights because he was an atheist. I don't think that makes very much sense. And also, it's not a requirement to be religious to believe in human rights. I mean, I believe in human rights. A lot of atheists believe in human rights because we have basic human decency, not because a God told us that humans have rights. The other thing about this is that a lot of Christians, I mean, the entire central theme of Christianity is that all of us are awful, sinful beings who deserve eternal torment in hell, and the only reason we aren't getting that is because Jesus died to save us. So that's kind of a weird dichotomy between this idea of inherent human worth that that Christians purport, and also this idea of inherent human worthlessness, that humans are inherently evil, that we deserve to be tortured for eternity, and the only reason we aren't is because God is merciful. It's just a weird contradiction there. And I mean, I suppose it's not a contradiction, but it's just a weird dynamic to me. I just think it's interesting.
That atheists really can't answer is, why should humans care about the environment? Now, atheists are often very environmentalist. I think in America, at least, atheists are much more likely than Christians to be talking about climate change. And I'm not here to say climate change isn't real. I don't think it's going to destroy the world. I think it's going to have bad impacts that is going to make life harder for people. And if we're Christians, we should care about that. But I think in a Christian worldview, it's a lot more consistent to care about the environment than an atheist one. Because if atheists believe we're just like other animals, like ontologically, then what humans destroying the environment is just natural. Because no other animals care about the environment. All animals just do what they...
I don't think that other animals have the same awareness of ecological problems that we do, or the same ability to counteract them, or frankly, the same responsibility in the actual ecological problems that are going on, because climate change is caused by human activity, by human burning of fossil fuels, and so on. And the answer to the question of why should atheists care about the environment? Oh, I don't know, maybe because we live on this planet. I don't know. It's a really difficult question to answer. Why would we care about the planet that we live on?
Feel like to survive. Like in the forest by my house. It's infested with deer. And deer are terrible for the environment when they overpopulate, because they eat all the saplings and then new trees can't grow. So the deer are very bad for the environment. But they have no responsibility. They're not self-conscious about what they're doing for the environment. And even if you could somehow communicate it to them, they wouldn't care. Because animals are amoral beings. They're not immoral, they're just amoral. They're not good or bad, they're neutral. Saying that humans have a responsibility to take care of the environment implies that we're somehow, inherently above other animals. Now, of course, we would all agree humans have...
It implies, what it implies is that we have a greater ability to understand and to respond to the ecological problems. It doesn't mean that we were created specially by God, as he's going to then conclude. No, it just simply means that we have an awareness and understanding that other non-human animals right now don't have. So none of this points to the existence of God. This just points to the idea that humans have a higher intellect. And, I don't know why that is. We just happen to evolve this way. It doesn't lead me to the conclusion that we were created specially by a divine being in the sky who created two people in the Garden of Eden, and then one of them ate an apple, and then the rest of us are cursed, and then we're going to go to hell if we don't follow Jesus, and we don't. And also, this sky person hates gay people. None of that strikes me as a logical consequence of this.
Technology and more intelligence, generally speaking, than in other animals. But even so, if you're an atheist and if humans are just biological machines, the same way like snakes and horses are, then what we do to the environment is just an extension of our nature. There's nothing unnatural about it at all. So to say that there's any responsibility to care for the environment implies A, that humans have some inherent superiority, and B, it also sort of implies that there's a God, but really any moral claims.
How does that imply that there's a God? I think it's common sense that we would want to preserve the place that we live. I mean,
there's a moral lawgiver, because since we all disagree on what's right and wrong, but we still all know that there is such a thing as right and wrong, we just disagree on the specifics, there needs to be someone to officially set the rules. That's why the moral argument for God it's a good argument. The only defense atheists can give is maybe objective morality doesn't exist. So the moral argument doesn't prove God exists, it just proves that morals can't exist if God doesn't exist. And basically every atheist philosophy...
I do kind of agree with that. I do think the moral argument is not really that relevant to whether God exists or not.
I've ever read has admitted that you can't have objective morality with God. We just need to do our best with subjective morality. And we see how subjective morality goes in basically every atheist regime. All right. So yeah, that's thing number 2. And thing number 3 is similar. It also has to do with the environment, but it's basically why should we...
So speaking of the objective versus subjective morality debate, I really don't really know how I stand on this. Most of my friends that I talk to, most of my atheist friends still don't believe in objective morality. I have a very strong sense of morality. So the idea that there is no objective morality is extremely unnerving to me, because it would mean that a lot of my moral frameworks are really hard to justify to other people. But I'm friends with a lot of moral relativists, and it seems to be like the predominant view of people that I at least talk to, my social circles. But I have heard some atheist arguments for objective morality, such as Sam Harris has a video about objective morality without God, and I honestly, I don't really know how I stand on this issue, but I do think it's possible to have a moral framework that is broadly agreed upon by most people. For me, that moral framework that I support, that I believe, that I try to promote to everyone, is reducing suffering for sentient beings. That's the basis for my veganism. That's the basis for the choices that I make in my life, the political parties that I support, the values that I have. It all comes down to reducing suffering for sentient beings. He is acting like all atheists are these like awful human beings that don't care about anyone. And I don't think that that's a necessary consequence of atheism. A lot of people are scared of the lack of objective morality that comes with letting go of the idea of an all-powerful God who set all these rules for us. But objective morality does not imply that Christianity is true. So suppose that objective morality is real, and that everyone has this intuitive sense of what is right and wrong. So I have an intuitive sense of what is right and wrong. But now let's imagine that this sense was instilled in me by the Christian God. That's impossible. Why? Because reading the Bible, a lot of things that happen in the Bible, a lot of things that God directly does in the Bible, go against my intuitive morals. For example, flooding the entire world and murdering everyone goes against my moral sense. Telling Abraham to perform child sacrifice, and then at the last minute saying, "Oh no, just kidding, I was only trying to see if he would really do it," that goes against my moral sense. Committing genocide against Egyptian babies, that goes against my moral sense. So if I'm getting morals from anywhere, if I'm getting this sense of objective morality from somewhere, it sure as hell isn't the Christian God. And so this entire argument is irrelevant to me, at least in terms of whether or not there's a God, or whether or not Christianity is true, because my moral sense doesn't square with Christianity. My moral sense does not square with the idea of torturing people for eternity for not believing in God. That is the most sadistic, awful, immoral idea that I've ever heard. Yet, Redeemed Zoomer, I'm sure, would say that it makes perfect sense, and I have watched some of his other videos. I don't know his exact views on hell, but yeah, so maybe either my moral compass is faulty, but I feel that a lot of other people have the same moral intuitions as me, and will have the same qualms with the Bible, will have the same qualms with the teachings of Christianity. So I don't think the existence or lack thereof of objective morality even matters in the debate over whether Christianity is true or not, because even if that moral sense that I have turned out to be some sort of sign that morality is not subjective, then that still doesn't bring me to Christianity.
About anything that's not like directly related to our own pleasure. Basically, why should we care about whether humanity will flourish 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now? Like, why should we care about the survival of the human species? I was watching the movie Interstellar, which is a great movie, by the way. It's about the Earth's climate collapsing and needing to find another planet for people to live on. It's science fiction. I don't take it as a documentary of what's going to actually happen. But it's a good question. It's about the survival of the human species. And yeah, it's a very good story. But if you're an atheist, there's no reason to care about the survival of anything, really, if everything's going to die eventually. Because
Okay, so this is a big topic. When I first deconverted from Catholicism, I used to be a Catholic. I was extremely nihilistic. I felt really scared, really depressed. I couldn't stop thinking about how in whatever 1,000 years I would be, everyone that I know would be dead. Any descendants that I might have would be dead. Anything that I made, any art that I made, anything that I did would probably be forgotten. Then in billions of years, the universe would end and everything would be pointless. But then I realized, it took me a while to realize this, but eventually I realized that that's a really stupid way of looking at things, because it's about perspective. If I'm going to zoom out that far, I'm zooming out so far that it's like, it doesn't make any sense, because when I think about what has what meaning is, what purpose is, I don't need to zoom out that far. I just have to look at my immediate surrounding, the immediate timeline around me. When I make art, when I'm working on my novel, I know that this novel is not going to be remembered in 100 years, in 1,000 years from now. Nobody's going to remember the novel that I wrote. But if I can get one person to read it this year, or one person to read it in 10 years down the road, like in the years after I publish something, if I can get people to read it, those people enjoy my novel in that moment, in the present moment, that has value in and of itself. The fact that things are temporary doesn't mean that they are meaningless. When I was a Christian, when I thought about atheism, I thought, wow, atheists must think that nothing matters because they don't believe in eternal life. That's falling for a really, I think that's falling for a pretty big logical trap, because just because something is temporary doesn't mean it doesn't have value. It has value while you're experiencing it. My life is not going to be remembered, but my life as I'm experiencing it, I have emotions. I experience connections to people around me. I experience curiosity about the world. I know, like, all of the experiences that I have right now, those have value as they're happening to me. It's not a matter of things needing to last forever in order to be worth it.
According to the laws of physics, according to the second law of thermodynamics specifically, there's what's called the inevitable heat death of the universe. That means that eventually it's inevitable that everything will die. It's called entropy, for example. Everything dies eventually. So if you're an atheist and you don't believe that Jesus is coming back to restore all things, then really the survival of humanity is just delaying the inevitable. So we're not really surviving at all. There's nothing that's really going to last.
Again, just because things won't last forever doesn't mean we shouldn't cultivate them while they do last. We care about the environment because we recognize that we're going to have to live on this planet for the duration of our lives, and if we have children, our children are going to live on this planet for the duration of their lives. We want to give them a good experience on this planet. Just because the planet will eventually, explode, and when the planet will eventually get consumed by the expanding red giant of the sun, and the universe will eventually have a heat death, or, you know what, that's not even the only way the universe might end. People aren't even sure how the universe is going to end, but none of that even matters, because we're not talking about that time scale. That time scale is so vast, and it doesn't make sense to view value on that scale, because, I mean, who cares? I care about what's happening to me right now. I care about the experiences that I have right now, the experiences that are going to happen in the immediate future. Those things have value. The opportunity to live has value while you're still living it. My life is not meaningless because I have value while I'm still living it.
Just delaying the inevitable. So, like, why not just get it over with and nuke everything right now? It's a real question. It's like, it's more like a broader question of why does anything matter at all? Because it's a question that the existentialist philosophers like Albert Camus posed. It's like, life is, generally speaking, more pain than pleasure, and if there's nothing after this, like, painful life, the only question that remains is the question of, should we continue going on living? If it's...
I don't think he's actually read Albert Camus, because Albert Camus' answer to this question is basically that we should keep on living, that the opportunity of living, we can make the most of it. We can look the absurdity in the face and continue living. I don't really... Redeem Zoomer, have you read any of Albert Camus' work? Like actually? Because I would really highly recommend it. It's really good. He's my favorite philosopher, in fact.
More pain than pleasure, and if nothing good will last. And that's a dark question that most atheists...
Again, nothing good will last, but good things still exist. Good things are still existing to be experienced in the present. They're temporary, but that doesn't mean that they don't have any value. They have value insofar as we experience them.
Try to drown out. What I mean by that is, it's sort of a whole existentialist mindset. I took a class in high school on existential literature, which basically assumes that there's no objective meaning in life, so you just have to be like Nietzsche, be like an Ubermensch, and try to make meaning out of life. But all it really is trying to squeeze as much pleasure out of life before it runs out and you face oblivion for eternity. So the question...
And what's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? This is genuinely a thing that a lot of Christians have said to me. My own parents had this debate with me. I remember one time I was talking to them, and I was talking to them. They were, giving the whole spiel about, don't you think it's so depressing to, think that nothing happens after death, that like there's no grand point, grand purpose to human existence. And they asked me, so you just want everyone to have a long, happy, and meaningless life? And I just said, yes. Like, I don't know what's wrong with having that sounds pretty great to me. I mean, what is wrong with having a long, happy, meaningless life? Genuinely. And I mean meaningless in the sense that there is no defined purpose. Like, there is no God that said, you are on this earth to follow me. That's what I mean by meaninglessness, that there's no like purpose for why we exist. We just happen to exist. But, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with wanting to be happy? What's wrong with wanting to experience pleasure while you're on earth, as long as you're not harming anyone?
That no atheists really want to confront is that nothing, and I mean nothing, actually matters if it'll all disappear anyway. There's no good or evil. There's no real purpose for doing anything. There's no point in creating anything if it's just going to be destroyed. Like, for example, I love creating things in Minecraft. I would not create a Minecraft world if I knew it was going to be deleted in a day. I would not create a Minecraft world if I knew it would be deleted in 7 days. So for atheists...
Yet you're creating a Minecraft world, even though you know that this Minecraft world isn't going to last for all eternity of the universe. So what are you doing that for? This is exactly what my point was, is that the length that your creation lasts for doesn't really matter, because it's in the moment. When you're living in the moment, it still has value. Like, that's why a lot of people like value experiences over like material goods, because even though the experience doesn't last forever, it's still an experience that has value inherent to it. I don't really get this idea.
Why bother creating anything if everything's going to be destroyed? And that is what the laws of physics say. Everything will be destroyed unless something intervenes. Christians believe Jesus is coming back to restore all things and restore this.
There's another point. He's saying that atheists shouldn't care about the environment because atheists don't believe that anything is going to last forever. And Christians believe that Jesus is going to come back and restore all things. So wouldn't that mean that Christians shouldn't care about the environment because Jesus is just going to come and fix it anyway? I really am not understanding the logic here, because from what he's laying out, it really sounds as if Christians should be the one who don't care about the environment, because they believe that Earth is only a temporary place for humans to be. That's sort of a test in between the second coming of Jesus. I mean, I'm really not following him here.
World, not to rapture us off to some distant heaven. The new heavens and the new earth are a redemption of this world, not simply an abandonment of it. But, like I said, if you're an atheist, there's no hope with this. So why create anything? It makes no sense. So the 3 questions atheists can't answer are: 1, why is human life worth any more than animal life? 2 is, why do humans have any responsibility to care about the environment if we're just part of nature and we're just doing what our instincts tell us to? And 3 is, why does anything matter if everything will be destroyed? Pose this to your atheist friends, and I mean this. A lot of people are not explicitly atheist, they're just sort of agnostic, and they just sort of don't want to address these questions. And I think the reason people care so much about, like, making sure they can have as much sexual, sensual, and other forms of pleasure is to try and drown out these dark, nagging questions. Does anything matter? You see, like, all this...
So he does have a point here. I do think he's right about this. I do think that people like to engage in hedonism in order to distract themselves from difficult existential questions. So I have a lot of existential dread and a lot of, existential problems. But the difference between the way that I conceptualize these existential issues and the way that Redeem Zoomer and other religious people who share his views are going to conceptualize them is that he tries to ascribe an explanation for why people feel like this, that he feels, I'm assuming, he thinks that people have this feeling that something's missing from their lives, and that thing is God. That thing is this grand purpose for existence, and that he thinks that just because... this is also an argument that, C.S. Lewis made. He said, if I feel like there is a piece missing, that means that there is probably... He has this quote that says something like, I feel like I don't belong in this world, therefore there must be another world for me. No, not therefore. That does not logically follow. Just because I find in me a desire to eat some chocolate cake doesn't mean that there's a chocolate cake waiting for me. It just means that I have this desire. Desire is completely unable to be filled. Maybe this is an irrational desire. Maybe this is only a product of human psychology. Maybe this is only a product of the evolution of consciousness. Maybe Maybe we're the only species to be cursed by the awareness of the own futility of our own existence. Maybe all of that could be true. Maybe we are searching for answers that aren't there, just like Albert Camus postulates in the myth of Sisyphus. That's what I think. I don't think that just because humans as a whole have this deep psychological need for purpose, for rationalization, for explanation, I don't think that means that the universe owes us an explanation. The Christian idea is that, there is an explanation out there. Because I want an explanation, there is an explanation. And I just don't think that is a logical reason to believe in God. I don't think that no matter how much I want to have a rational explanation for why humans exist, for what the meaning of life is, for what morality is, as much as I want these answers, that doesn't mean that these answers will be given to me through some sort of divine framework. It doesn't mean that religion, which answers all of these questions so perfectly, so easily, that doesn't mean it's true. Just because it scratches that itch doesn't mean it's true.
TikTok and all this porn that we see in society, it's a way to distract from the real spiritual problems that our society is facing. So it's sort of like a band-aid that people don't want to rip off. They just want to stuff it like underneath. But the more people try and suppress these questions, the more we need to raise them. We need to blare these questions with a megaphone. We need to ask the question to every single secular person: why does all of this matter? Why should we care about climate change if one way or the other the world's going to be destroyed anyway? We're just delaying the inevitable. Now, I do care about climate change. I care about it because I know that everything will be restored. So until then, we need to be good stewards of the earth as God told us to. God told us to have dominion over the earth, and that means with power comes responsibility.
Again, if everything's going to be restored, then why would you care about it? Like, I'm still not understanding that point.
But if everything's going to be destroyed, then there is no responsibility. There's nothing that matters at all. So we need to also ask the question, especially the third one, like, why does any of this matter? And what will you do if the things that give you meaning in life fail you? Because I was talking to this atheist girl at my college, and she said, I'll get meaning from my achievements. And I was like, okay, what if your achievements fail? What then? She was like, they won't. But, there are way too many cases account of people putting their meaning in their achievements, and then they don't work out. Give this orange sheep some wheat. I forget how that sheep became orange. It was probably when I was dyeing those Cairo banners in my church. But yeah, so it's something that people want to avoid, and especially even like a lot of the laws and policies that are made these days, like Matt Walsh, like I don't normally listen to political commentators.
Of course he listens to Matt Walsh.
He talks about way more than just politics. Let's start breeding these sheep. I forget why they're yellow. He talks about the real spiritual, the parents of the bats, that's funny. He talks about the real spiritual problems that are facing us, and he says that the only right that people still care about is the right to sexual pleasure, because it's the only...
That is a wild statement. The only right that people still care about is the right to sexual pleasure. I don't even think I am going to even talk about that, because what do you mean the only right that people care about? Oh my goodness.
Drown out these big questions, but we need to not let people drown them out. All right, guys, I'm going to speed this up while I do a bit of work in my garden. I've worked on this for many episodes, so I know you guys want to see something else. I'm just going to try to finish most of it off in the speed run. Sorry, in the speed up, sorry. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Okay, so that was the whole video. I don't usually do reaction content, so this is my first time reacting to anybody. Again, I'm not trying to hate on anyone in this video, so yeah, hopefully my points made sense. I am no philosopher, I am no religious scholar. Redeem Zoomer, you probably know a whole lot more about the Bible than I do. But yeah, if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1K. So yeah, that'll be great. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video if I make new videos soon.